right into it. Welcome to our Meet the Specialists. This week we have David Secrist here, and we're going to be talking about his specialty. But before we get into that, let's do a couple of just some get to know you questions. Maybe give us your background, where you grew up, kind of how you got started in this field.
You bet. You bet. My dad was in the military, so I've kind of lived all over. I grew up mostly in San Antonio, um, but my parents are from Davis County, and both of them, and Utah has always been home. My family goes way back in Utah, all the way back to 1847 on both sides of the family, and so I've got deep roots here, even though most of my childhood was spent outside the state, but we came here all the time, and this area has always been home. As far as getting started in the business, my uncle had a ranch up in Box Elder County, a little place called Grouse Creek, which a few people might know where that's at. Not many, but that I went up and worked for him at the time I was about 13 years old, and would work for him in the summer. And I'm not sure I was very much help to start with. In fact, I know I wasn't. But that life really got in my blood, and agriculture I knew it's what I wanted to do. As I spent all the time out there. I always loved the outdoors, and but getting involved initially in the sheep industry with him, and then in the cattle industry was just was a light went on for me, and I knew it was something I wanted to do. And so from there, I worked for him through summers, all through high school, and eventually I came here to Utah State and got a BS degree in animal science and pre-vet. I originally wanted to go to vet school. I think like a lot of young people do, that are interested in animal agriculture. At the time, I felt like that was I think the only way to be a professional and work in animal agriculture, and I found out that there was a lot of opportunities to be involved, and so I chose not to take that route. I went on and got a master's degree here at Utah State, and in animal nutrition, beef cattle nutrition specifically. Did research with cow-calf operations and cow-calf supplementation. And from there, I worked a few years and managed a small cow-calf operation out in Grouse Creek, small absentee-owned ranch, and did that for a few years until I decided to go back to school and got a PhD at Oklahoma State, also in nutrition. Most of that work was in the feedlot area in terms of my research area of emphasis. And from there, I worked for several companies in that time. In the last, it's been almost 30 years. And initially in the animal feed industry. Then I went to work for a feeding company that's based in Boise called AgriBeef. Managed a feed yard in Washington for quite a few years, and then I was able to get on with Ag Reserves, who's a company based here in Utah. They have cattle operations really all over the U.S. And at that time, they brought me on board to buy a feed yard, and because the idea was to become a fully integrated cattle operation, and so I did that, and over the last 15 years, I've overseen the feed yard, also a dairy operation here in Utah, and then several of the cattle operations in all across the United States. So it's been a great experience. Worked with a lot of great people, and been something I really love doing. So
Awesome. And then you made your way back to USU.
I did. I've always had in my mind that it would be kind of rewarding and a lot of fun at the end of my career to be involved in academia, in teaching, research, or extension. And I'm kind of getting close to reaching that point, and I saw a job opportunity here at USU in extension and research, and honestly, this is a place I wanted to be. I really wouldn't have taken this job anywhere else, but here we wanted to live here, and I wanted to be a part of the industry here in Utah. And so it was a perfect fit. The timing was great. And so my wife and I made a full circle back here to Logan. We've actually were here when we first got married 40 years ago. And so it's been kind of a full life circle.
Oh,
And
that's really
I'm
neat.
very excited to be here.
So what do you like to do just when you're not working with animals? You said outdoors, so
Yeah, no, I do. I've always loved to hunt and fish and do anything outside. In my younger years, I used to really love horses, and I still do, but my career has made it very difficult to pursue that hobby much because I've traveled a lot over the last really ever since I left Grouse Creek in the mid '90s. I've traveled a lot work-wise, and so it's been very difficult to maintain that love. But I always enjoyed that as well. So anything I can do outside, in the mountains, and with family is what I enjoy doing. So
I
I,
think that's a great way to spend
yeah,
time.
you bet.
So I grew up bottle feeding calves. That's how I paid for all of my like high school activities. Is
Mhm.
my dad would buy them on KSL and he would, you know, buy our milk, whatever you want to formula, whatever you want to call it, and then we'd pay him back and then we'd keep profit. And so that is my minimal experience in raising cattle. I grew up raising hogs. That's what my livestock background was in. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit about kind of tell me what you are doing at USU Extension. Are there any research projects you're working on? Kind of go into that.
Yeah, first of all, this is all new to me. I've been in current position just for a few months, and as I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of experience in the industry, but no experience in extension. And so uh, it's a big change, and I'm still trying to learn that piece of it. I have both an extension and research appointment, so I've got a few research projects that are still in their infancy that I'm interested in. So I don't know that I'm ready to really say exactly what we're doing because I don't know if I'm going to get it done yet. But there's a few things that I'm interested in doing. But the bottom line is that I'm hopeful that as I learn the extension part of my job, which really I think this is part of it. How do I reach people? And that's one thing I need to learn, and I'm trying to learn. I know a few folks in the state, but I'm trying to broaden that out more. And so learning how to reach people is a big part of that. But then I hope that I can bring the experience that I've had over the last 30 plus years in the industry, and couple that with bringing really being a bridge between the university and the research community, and try to bring the latest information to beef producers in the state. And I really wanted to be a part of creating a stronger link between Utah State and the beef producers in the state of Utah. I've seen in other states that I've worked in the connection between the state universities and land grant schools and the producers are really strong. And there's certainly been some of that built here, but I'd like to try to add to that and improve prove that connection.
That's awesome. I think that's a unique position for you to be in because you've been a producer, but now you get to come and connect that and create a bridge there. So in your experience, um, in working with beef in Utah, well, I guess let me rephrase this. So I see a lot of people, they're trending towards like buying local beef and small farms, or I follow a couple of like farming influencers, right, on social media. And there's been this shift I've noticed where people are buying like straight from the ranchers, straight from the farms. Can you tell me why you think that has become a trend, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon, and I've actually seen with my own family. I've got 5 kids, and even though they were all exposed to agriculture at a young age, got two of them, 2 of the 5 are working in that kind of an ag field now. But they all have interest in either doing things on their own or which I think a lot of young people do nowadays. They want to raise some of their own food, and I think it's great. That my generation wasn't really into that, but I think it's great, and I think people want to know where their food comes from. and they want a connection to their food and want a connection to kind of back generations. And many folks are so far removed from agriculture today, multiple generations removed, and so they don't really understand it, or and so that I think they want to, and they want to be connected to it, and I think it's great. Um, there's still, I would say, the majority of our producers in the state we're still gonna be producing food for the whole world, and not everybody can buy directly from a farmer or rancher. And for those that can, I think it's a fantastic business and a great opportunity, but and that exists for some folks. But it's a big industry, and we're I'd say food industry in general, but also the beef industry. And we're shipping beef all over the world and feeding a world that's continuing to grow. And so there's that side of it I don't believe is going to change. But as you mentioned, there is that movement that I think that will continue to grow, and as people have that interest. So I don't see one replacing the other. I just see it being something that will create a nice market for some people, and for our consumers that want to have that connection. It's great that it's available.
And you talked about price, and that's, I think, something that, like, farm to table stuff does tend to be just a little bit more, right? Like,
Yep.
it it is a little bit more expensive, but I know for me, it's kind of satisfying because we will either, like, split a cow with my parents and, like, freeze all of it, or, I have rancher friends, right, that I just buy from them, and it is a little bit more expensive than just going to the store, but for me, it's awesome that there's the availability to do both. So, speaking of cost, we've seen an increase in beef costs recently, just at the grocery store. Is there anything besides just blanket inflation that's affecting that, or is there something more?
No, that's a great question. I think definitely inflation has played a role, but I also think probably a bigger role has been the overall beef supply demand equation, uh, mainly in the U.S., but also in the world. Of course, the U.S. is the leading beef producer in the world, so what happens here does affect what goes on in the world. But our beef cow numbers are at their lowest in the last, oh shoot, 50, 60 years. And it's a cyclical movement. That's not, it's happened before, and it'll happen again. And so it's nothing to be alarmed about per se, but yeah, we are definitely at a low in beef cattle numbers right now. And so that supply demand equation is big, and it makes a really big difference. The other side of it is, or I'd say in addition to, is the fact that consumers like beef, and they continue to eat it. It's a high quality, nutritious food. People enjoy it, and I think some of the stigmas that may have been associated with beef and health have been dissipated some. You see many people on these high protein keto diets that are losing weight and finding they feel better when they have a higher protein diet, and so these things come and go, but foundationally, I think beef is just a central part of a lot of people's um, um, you know, their food budget. And yes, it's more expensive, but I think obviously people keep buying it and they feel like it's got extra value, and the prices will come back in line some over time as things moderate. But right now, we're definitely in a supply demand crunch, and I don't see that changing for probably a couple of years. Um, would be my thought. Uh, that provides a great opportunity for beef producers, because beef producers in the state should be enjoying very profitable times right now, and that's not always the case. And so it's a great opportunity for them to kind of heal up from maybe some of the more difficult years in the past.
I appreciate your honesty with the cyclical part because I think we panic when we see things rising and we think, "Oh no," but I do think that things they kind of go right. So tell me, what do you think most people get wrong about being in beef production?
Yeah, that's a good question, and an interesting one. And we could go a lot of different ways, and I could talk a long time about that. And I won't take up too much of your time, but the I think the general public takes their food supply for granted, and that is a wonderful blessing. It's a wonderful blessing to live in a country that very few of us worry about where our food is coming from. Unfortunately, a few people do, but those that do, it's not a food supply problem. There are economic problems in this country everywhere, but we have the most abundant and safest food supply, honestly, the world has ever known, and I can say that very, very, very confidently. Now, there, I think when we live in, I'm going to say good times. Now, I realize there's some economic, pain right now, but when you look out over the 100 years of, cycle of time, we're living pretty darn good times. We're pretty comfortable, and I think, we're always looking for something to attack or be after. I know that, beef has been under attack with regard to greenhouse gas emissions and global warming and some of those things. So, the EPA has recently come out with numbers in 2022 saying that the beef industry represents 2.3% of total beef or total emissions in the U.S. And that's an interesting number. And also, I think folks forget that 150 years ago, roughly, that bison roamed most of the United States, and they're ruminant animal, just like a beef cow, have the same digestive system. They produce methane, CO2, just like beef cows, and their numbers were roughly the same then that our beef cow numbers are now. And so I guess I really question whether beef cows are really moving the needle compared to the pre-industrial age. I seriously doubt that. But ruminant animals have the amazing ability to take a plant that has been produced by soil, energy from the sun and water, and they take plants that humans can't utilize, and they eat them and digest them and make a highly nutritious, highly flavorful food out of that. That's an amazing thing. And I think most people, a lot of people feel like that the beef cattle are competing with humans for food, and that's an inaccurate supposition. It's just incorrect. Now, beef cattle eat a lot of byproducts from the human food industry, whether it's wheat or ethanol production or whatever it is, and so we are able to take something that humans really can't use and make a nutritious product out of it. The other thing, it's a huge success story for the beef industry is since and there's been recent studies that come out and said that since 1961, that the amount of CO2 produced per pound of beef produced in the U.S. has gone down by 42%. Now, why is that? Well, it's because beef producers are businessmen, and they continue to want to be more and more efficient. And any business, and especially the beef business, folks are trying to produce more with less. That's what we try to do. To me, that's the definition of sustainability. We continue to try to produce more with less, and you couple that with university research and that has been done to continue to bring technology and new and better ways to food production, and beef specifically accounts for that big change. And that's not gonna end. We need to continue as the world population grows. We need to continue to figure out how to produce more with less, and that is a challenge of agriculture, and we're up to it. I have no doubt about it. And it makes it an exciting thing to be a part of. And as we continue to invest money in research, and our producers continue to apply that research and find, apply their ingenuity and creativity to find better ways, we have a very long track record of making that happen. And there's no doubt in my mind that we'll continue to do so. So.
I think that's awesome. So you kind of touched about it, but you talked about the exciting future and things that are going on. So what about this exactly excites you? Like, what about beef production makes you so excited?
Yeah, no, that's another good one. And you know, I think all of us feel like we want to do something worthwhile with your career and your life, and be a part of something bigger than yourself. And I've taken a lot of satisfaction in knowing that food production is very foundational to our very security. Security as a people, security as a nation. The fact that we are self-sufficient in food production. Now, no doubt, we bring in foods from other parts of the world, uh, but not because we don't have the calories and protein available here, but because maybe we like some things, we enjoy things that might be more easily grown in other parts of the world. But the reality of it is that this country is self-sufficient in terms of food production. There's nothing. Maybe oil production would add to that as far as being more foundational to our national security. So, so to me, that's a big deal. I feel I love our country, and I feel that I'm doing something that contributes to the good. Now, on a broader scale, when you think about the world and supplying food to a hungry world, I kind of hit on that point earlier, but um, I think it's a noble thing to do and a noble thing to be involved in producing food for people. And no doubt we do it for a business. But the reality of it is we couldn't do it if were it not profitable. Nobody operates a business in a long term if they can't make a profit. So there's not a problem with that being an incentive as well. But I think I feel pretty strongly. I know a lot of people in our business, and a profit's not the only reason they do it. They do it for their way of life, for one, but also because they take a lot of pride in producing food for a hungry nation and a hungry world. And so that really, at the end of the day, that's why I've dedicated my life to doing what I do, and that's why I continue to enjoy doing what I do.
Oh, and we are so thankful for that. I am so thankful for farmers and ranchers. My dad growing up was a hobby farmer, so nothing major. We maybe ran 10 or 12 cows, right? But I think it just made at least me personally appreciate like the food industry that much more, to just see the work that even my dad, who he only had 10 cow, like what he had to put into his little tiny operation, and like I said, raising bottle calves. So I think that's really interesting. So just kind of on our closing note, how can you help people? So a lot of our people who might watch this are going to be either in county offices as staff or faculty, or even like the general public. So how do you help those people out in the county offices?
That's something trying to learn to do, and that's part of the extension part of my job that's new to me. But what I have done over the last couple of months is I've reached out to all of our county agents in the state and had some one-on-one discussions in this way via Zoom, just to try to make it more efficient. And boy, for my first goal is get to know them and then understand what they're working with in their counties. And I'll tell you what, I've been very impressed with the people that we have working across the state. And I'm super excited to work with all of them to try to improve the things that we're doing. And so, their knowledge, their dedication. Some of them are young, energetic, and learning. Some of them have been around longer and have great experience. And it's an excellent mix of people that not only that I hope I can help them, but I no doubt that they can help me. They can educate me about the things that they're seeing in their counties, the experiences that they've had. And so, that's the first thing, is get to know them. And then I intend to get out and get my boots on the ground and get around the state. Obviously, always budgets are always limited, so I've got to be really efficient with how I utilize the dollars I have at my disposal. But boy, I love to get out anyway. I really enjoy it. And so I plan on getting out in different parts of the state, spending time with the county agents as well as producers, be it in meetings that we've got planned, or one-on-one, which is something I really enjoy doing as well, with the ranchers and beef producers in the state. And try to utilize my experience, and then, as I mentioned earlier, bringing the research kind of to their front door. And our county folks are just a very key part of that, of making that happen. So I'm excited to be working with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for attending. This has been super insightful, and I hope everybody else enjoys it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to talk to you, Alicia.